Leader Transition Institute training and coaching session. I'm in a different location from where I am normally, so you don't get to see my bright background, but I am excited to be here. I'm going to a retirement for a senior civilian at the Pentagon this afternoon, so I'm at a hotel across the street. Let me just tell you a quick little bit about LTI, the Leader Transition Institute. We are a 501c3 organization based in Maryland. We exist to help people get from where they are to where they want to be in making big life changes. We go through transitions at various times in our lives, and it's not always easy. It's valuable to have help. And so that's what we exist for. We have a veteran transition program that supplements the DoD mandated transition program. We fill the gaps that are left by it. I am a former Army paratrooper and medevac helicopter pilot. I'm the CEO and president of the organization, and I also am part of the teaching team. I spent nearly 10 years on active duty in the Army, 2 years in the inactive reserves, and I've been an Air Force spouse for 35 years. So let's start today by talking about what a resume is. Many people don't understand what a resume is. They think that a resume is supposed to get them a job. I'm here to disabuse you of that idea. A resume won't get you a job, but a resume will open a door. The definition of a resume, it's called an accounting of an individual's experience, qualifications, and educations. And that's really important to understand, is that it's an accounting. Now, accounting, when we think of it with numbers, with money, with, in finance, that's the system of recording and summarizing business and financial transactions and analyzing, verifying, and reporting the results. And why is that important to know what that word means in relation to how we use accounting in a resume? Resume, it's an accounting of an individual's previous experience, their qualifications and educations, and so it is solid data. A resume that doesn't have results in it is a job description. And so it's important to think about your resume in the same lines that you think of accounting: specific, measurable results. And when we format the bullets that go into a job, into a resume, we use the same kind of thing that you've heard of maybe for resume, answering resume questions. You may have heard of the STAR interview technique. Situation, you explain the situation, what your job was to solve that situation, the action that you took, and the result. And you want to, in every bullet on a resume, you want to build that in. And we're going to talk about that as we go along with some specific examples. So let's talk about who should have a resume. If you are on and you want to share some of these answers in the chat, please feel free to do that. I'm going to try and keep in a track of it. So tell me, right in the chat, who should have a resume? I'll give it just a second for you to put that in there. It's not coming as quickly as I'd like, and it might be that I'm not seeing the posts that are on LinkedIn. What I will say is everybody should have a resume. Kimberly, you're exactly right. Kimberly Oliver from Augusta, Georgia, you win the prize on that one. Everyone should have a resume. It doesn't matter whether you have your dream job. It doesn't matter whether you aren't interested in having a job. And Trisha Legray Smith, yes, even an experienced volunteer. Very important. Everyone should have a resume. One of the reasons why you want to keep your resume up to date is because in every state of the United States, all the 50 states, and I would guess that it probably applies to the territories as well, employment is at will. There are some states where it's there are some specific rules where employment is not at will. In Montana, it's only at will employment is only allowed during a probationary period. But what at will employment means, which affects everyone across the United States, is that you can be fired at any time for any reason. Now, as I said, there are some states that have specific rules. There are about some 10 states that have specific rules about when you can't be fired for that. And Montana says only during a probationary period. But in the vast majority of all the states, you can be fired at any time. The good news about that is that the at will works both ways. You can walk away at any time as well. But if there's a legal reason, you can be fired. And what are you going to do if your resume isn't up to date? So that's why it's critical to keep your resume up to date all the time. Now, I'm going to tell you that you are in the right room. If you're on here today listening to me, if you're watching the recording later, you are in the right place. You may have never learned how to write a resume before today, or you may think you know everything there is to write a resume. I'm going to tell you, you're still going to probably learn something today. Now, the other part of this is that you need to know that you don't know what you don't know. And so if you are absolutely clueless in this, don't feel like you're, in the minority, because frankly, you're probably in the majority of people absolutely clueless about how to write a resume. There are times in life when that just happens to us. As I said, I'm staying in a hotel. Last night, I heard when my husband got in the shower before I did, and I heard him fiddling with the water. I didn't think to ask him if there are any hints to getting the shower going. And then later on, I'm in the shower fiddling with the water, and he comes in and he tells me to do something that with the water that is absolutely backwards to what my inclination was. I thought you turn on the water, you let the water run for a little while, get it to the right temperature, and then you flip the thing to make the water come out of the shower thing. No, in this shower, in order to get it all to come out, you had to pull up on the water thing first and then turn the water on. And so you may think you know about resumes, and you may not know anything about resumes. I hope that you will find something here. Just know that it's okay if you don't know anything. Now, as I said, everybody should have their resume up to date at all times, and that's because I want you to think of your resume as a living document. It's always much easier to make a couple tweaks on your resume to bring it up to date for your current position than to have to do all the work in that one moment when you need it. Every time that you finish a big project or achieve a milestone related to your career, I want you to add it to your resume right away. There are two reasons. Number one, there was somebody trying to do a essay that covers their career, and I ask them about metrics for a specific project or task that they did, they don't know what those metrics are because it's been so long. So if you will just put all these great things into your resume while the metrics are fresh in your head, you'll be much farther ahead when you want to shape your resume into the actual document that you use to send to somebody. The other thing is getting that done. It's kind of like a to-done thing. I'm not a fan of to-do lists. I'm a fan of to-done lists. And when you get your resume updated, that's a to-done moment. And I think that if maybe you're like me and you like those. So we're going to talk about resume format. I'm going to show you some slides, and so then we'll be able to understand more about what I'm saying. So let me just pull this up. This is the resume format that we recommend in LTI, and we will provide this to you. If you don't have this format, then what I want you to do is to send me a message either via YouTube or via LinkedIn or via Facebook Messenger, If you have my email address, which is annies@leadertransitioninstitute.org. Let me see if I have that here, or you can send it to the admin, Leader Transition Institute. Here we go. Use this address. If you need the resume format, use this address, admin@leadertransitioninstitute.org. We're going to talk about it today. You can see that there is a 1-inch margin all the way around the resume. I want you to think about the recruiters and the hiring managers who are looking at resumes all day long. When they get resumes that are jammed with print from edge to edge, those documents are not inviting. So put a 1-inch margin on all sides. Let's talk for a minute about the font. I'm a big fan and promote using either Arial or Calibri font. The reason why is because they look very smooth on a screen. Let's talk for a minute about the Sans serif fonts and the serif fonts. The serif fonts are things like Times New Roman that you're used to using, maybe in the work that you do. Has some curly cues on it. That's a great font to use if you're printing something out like a book or a workbook, and people are going to read it strictly on the paper. But those little curly cues and things make it more difficult to read on a screen. And so we want you to use a sans serif font, which is Arial or Calibri. And regardless of whether you're going to print your resume out on paper and give it to somebody, or you're going to send it to somebody via email or upload it in a system, you want to use that sans serif font. The reason why you want to use those sans serif font regardless of the paper, when I told you that a curly Q is nice on a paper, is because most people who get resumes don't actually ever read the resume on the paper. They put it into a system and they end up reading it on a screen. So get that ready and tuned, set up for them to read nicely. And then you want to use a font not smaller than 10 point. Ideally, not smaller than 10.5. 10 is the absolute minimum. At the top of the page, you're going to put your name, your full name. If you have a PhD, I don't recommend that you put it there. If you have a PMP or one of the project management certifications, you can go ahead and put it there. Don't put MBA unless you're going after a job that specifies MBA. Don't put all those fancy letters that you earned for all the certificates and certifications you have. It's not to your benefit to have that after your name. And even if you're a PhD, you should be justifiably proud of that, but it's not going to increase your odds of getting looked at unless the job requires a PhD. It prejudices people from the start. If you have too many letters after your name or a PhD, you might be considered as overqualified for the job, even though you want to come in at an entry level because you know that'd be a good place for you to start. So you put your name in maybe 16 or 18 pitch, and then you put your contact information, your phone number, your email address, and your LinkedIn URL. And it's great if you can make those clickable. And so that goes in the actual body of the first page. You'll see on the top of the second page there, in the header, we put your name and page 2 at the top of the second page, but not on the first page. So you'll want to, if you're working in one of the like Microsoft Word, you want to click to make the first page different from the other pages. Now, if you are going to go to an event, and what we call a networking event, or you're going to meet in person with somebody and they expect you to bring your resume to them, you want to have your resume printed out on 2 pieces of paper. This is a time we're going to kill trees, sorry, but that's the way it needs to be. 2 pieces of paper, the good quality resume paper. So don't print out a lot of copies at one time. Print out a couple copies when you're going to do that, because if you decide to make some tweaks to your resume, you don't want to have to throw out everything that you had. And then you're going to paperclip your 2 pieces of paper together. The reason why you paperclip the 2 pieces of paper together is because when somebody takes a stack of resumes back to their office and either gets ready to scan it into a system themselves, or gives it to an admin to scan the system, the resumes in, they're just going to rip those pieces of paper apart because they're in a hurry. They have a whole stack of resumes to do, and that's going to put a hole in the pages of your resume. And that good quality resume paper that was going to slide through the scanner nicely, it's going to have holes at the top of it, and you're going to be ruined. So that's not a great idea to do that. So that's why we want to do 2 pieces of high quality resume paper with a page of your resume on each page, because they're only going to scan the first side of the paper. They don't do double side scanning. That takes too long. They zip, zip, zip these resumes right through their scanners. And so 1 piece of paper for each page of your resume, which gets me to the next thing, is that you can see here, I have 2 pages in the sample resume. That's exactly how many pages you get. No more than 2 pages. If you're going to do more than 2 pages, you need to do a CV, a curriculum vitae, and that's only required for some specific jobs, and they will let you know if they want a CV rather than a resume. But I don't care if you are, a 35-year experienced career person, 2 pages to your resume. So, and I'm going to go back through the questions afterwards in the chat and the comments, and I will address each of them as we get there, just so you know that. So that we have your name, we have your demographic information. Then we're going to write a 4 to 6 line summary. And then when I talk about lines, that's lines across the top of the page. The reason why we want to limit to no more than 6 lines across the top of the page is because the average recruiter or hiring manager is only going to read your resume for about 9 to 30 seconds to decide whether they're going to read the whole thing. And that means that in that 9 to 30 seconds, it's generally just the top of the page. And we actually want to get your last position up to the top as easily. And if you make your summary too long, then your last position may slide into the bottom half of the page, and they may never get interested to see that second half of the first page. And then if you're military, we're going to end that summary with the type of clearance you have. We want really specific kinds of sentences in the summary. You want to talk about really strong, active words about what you bring to the table as far as your skill set, your leadership abilities. And if you have a PMP, we're going to want to add it in there, try so that they know that. If you choose not to put the PMP letters after your name, we don't want to duplicate things on your resume. So if you put something one place, we're not going to put it another place, because the actual places on the resume to write characters, that's very limited, and we need to make really good use of that real estate. So then we're going to go on and do the rest of your resume is going to be in reverse chronological order of your career, which means that we're going to go with the most recent position that you've had and go backwards through your career. We can fit 30 or 40 years onto 2 pieces of paper. You'd be surprised. And we're going to put the name of your position. If you're coming out of the military, you want to put your military position titles in there. Don't civilianize them. There's nothing in the military short of a doctor or a nurse, something like that, a pilot. I was a medevac helicopter pilot. That translates to the civilian sector. But a company commander doesn't translate to anything in the civilian sector. So don't civilianize your titles if you're coming out of the military. Put your actual title. What they're looking for is titles of increasing responsibility, and they will be able to recognize that in the position titles that you list on your resume. So you're going to bold that. You're going to bold the month and year when you had the job, and then the organization or the location where you were. We don't bold that because they don't really care where you work. They care about what you did, but we do want to say where you were. And so then we're going to go to a 2-line job description, no more than 2 lines, because other than that, then they aren't getting the information that they need. After that, we'll go to your bullets for each job. And if you've been collecting good bullets, we may have to weed out and pick the best bullets to put in. So we do that over the course of the 2 pages, and then we're going to come to the bottom of the second page and we're going to put in your education. If you have a PhD, your master's degree, bachelor's degree, associate's degree, even if you have a PhD, we want you to put in, we're going to put in your associate's degree, because if you have an associate's degree, that tells an employer something very important about you. Very few people finish associate's degrees. And so if you have an associate's degree, it shows an employer that you finished something that you start. So that's a good thing for them to know. You can see in the sample resume that there is just the degree, the core area, and then the institution. We don't want to waste space on putting where it was, the school was. It doesn't matter. We don't want to put the year that you went to school. Ageism is real. And if they hadn't figured out already from what you've done how old you are, they can figure it out from your education, and we don't want to put it there. It is not critical. If you are still working on a degree, then we'll put it there, and we'll put in parentheses at the end of it, EXP, Echo X-ray Papa, for those of you who are in the military, and then we'll put the month and the year that you expect to finish it. Very few certifications deserve to be on a resume, and I say deserve because it is really valuable information that goes on a resume. Very few certifications. If they specify things in a job requisition, we'll make sure that they go onto your resume, and then very little in the way of professional development from the military sector. We want to really limit that because there isn't much professional development that you do in the military that is actually applicable to the civilian sector. Now, understand that it's not that they're going to never find this stuff out, because a resume is just going to be your foot in the door. Okay? And getting that, once you've got your foot in the door, when they say they want to talk to you with a job interview, the intermediate step is going to be filling out a job application. And there you're going to be able to put every single certification you have, every single school that you went to. And yes, you're going to put the years there. When they ask for it, you have to give the information. So you'll eventually be able to give them all. But this is just a synopsis on your resume of what's important. And so those are the key things that go on to those 2 pages of your resume. So I gave the opportunity for people to send me resumes and evaluate them here. And so this is the first one that I received. And I was excited to get this because I see a lot of resumes like this. I get them quite frequently, as a matter of fact. And I will tell you, they're not appropriate. Number one, there's a whole lot wasted on design. And what happens when you scan a resume like this into an applicant tracking system? We call it the ATS for short. That's what so many of the big companies use to process resumes and job applications. A resume like this, it won't be picked up accurately by the ATS system. And this also has red print on it. Red is the most difficult color to read in writing, and so we don't want to put that. When you are looking for a job, they don't really care what your personal interests are. You may get a chance in a job interview to, they may ask you what do you do for fun? Do you have a family? That family question isn't a legit question, so that tells you a lot if they ask that. And I don't encourage you to talk about your family unless there's something really important that they need to know. And so pictures of your family, pictures of what you like to do, pictures of books, if you like to read, those are not going to be valuable for you on a resume. And then on this particular resume, let me just pull it up over here because I had it out for me to look at so I can talk about it better. This particular resume, in the profile, one of the things that you need to pay attention to is to have things be, once you do something one way in a resume, do it that same way all the way through the resume. And so this individual wrote out the word 7 in the very first line of their profile, which is appropriate. We want to write out numbers that are under 10. But then on the second line, they did not write out the number 23. And it would have been okay at that point to write out the number 25. And so do things the same way all the way through your resume. And then if you went down and read all of the bullets in this, first of all, there are no things that are identified as job descriptions, although I can tell by reading the bullets that what kind of is a job description, but then the rest of it, there aren't metrics. It tells what the person did, but it does not tell what they accomplished. And so it's a resume that reads like a job description. And it shows that they're working on their bachelor's degree, but it doesn't say when they expect to get it, and that's important because I don't discourage people from applying for a job without knowing without meeting all the requirements. And so if it says you have a bachelor's degree and you don't have it completed yet, there's nothing wrong with applying for the position if you have it almost done. But the fact that you have 96, that a person has 96 of 120 hours doesn't tell me what their plan is to finish it. So if you're working towards it, I would be, as a prospective employer, I would say, oh, they have about 20 hours, 24 hours left to finish it. That's about maybe a year's worth of work. And so you're better served just putting that you would expect to finish in the summer of 2024. So let's talk now about what we have on this next slide. Now, this next slide, the individual sent me a resume and it's 3 pages long. That's not a good thing. So what's on the 3rd page is volunteer work. Don't put that on a resume unless it is a big volunteer project where a job where you completed projects that would be similar to things that you would be doing in a paid setting. And this wasn't in either of those cases. So, and when we have volunteer work, we build those into the regular job chronology. And so we don't want to have a section for volunteer work. And published work, that's giving away the store before they even get to talk with you. And so we don't want to put your published work onto it. And maybe what we might do is pick a couple of things and put them in with your different assignments, but not to have a whole section for published work. So the other thing here is that you can see that there is a list after the summary. There is a list of what this person called their key skills. Now, as a hiring manager or a recruiter, what this tells me is if I got this resume through my company's ATS system, it tells me that the person might not be qualified for the job. They might not have actually done any of what they call their key skills in their work. The key skills, when you list the things that are the key skills that show up in the job requisition, that'll get your resume seen. But the hiring managers and the recruiters are smart enough to know that people do that to get their resume through the wickets. That's a game. It doesn't mean that you're qualified. And so what we want to do is we eliminate those sections of key skills and those all the lists that are that you see in some resume formats, and build those words into the bullets that describe the work that you've done. So no sections of key skills. I should have put a red X over that. That's not something that you want to have. Okay, and then this person, you can see that where I blocked out the words to protect their privacy, but you can see that they have bullets all the way down, so there are no specific job descriptions. One of the and so you want to just really have that. Now, and they did a good job putting the education at the end, but they put the years on, and so we would want to make sure that we take the years out. And you'll notice if you look carefully, you'll see that in the summary it says that this person is a senior level manager with 20 years of expertise. If you have more than 15 years of experience, we don't advertise that in your summary, because then again, they may have the opinion, founded or unfounded, that you want more money than they're willing to pay you. And so we don't put that into the summary. They'll figure out you have 20 years of experience by reading your resume. Don't lead off with that. It dates you, it ages you, and so that's not a good thing. Okay, in the bullets of your resume, as I said, you want to say about using that star format. You want to have a 2-line bullet that describes the problem or situation and then how you solved it, and metrics. Now, one of the things to understand is that not every metric involves a number. We can create metrics with words. So make sure that you need to make sure that you get a metric into it so that it doesn't look like a job requisition, that it's actually a bullet about what you did, what you accomplished, because that's what they're looking for. Okay, you can see that on these resumes, that on the format and on this one, that there are no references. We don't put references on a resume. We don't put awards unless you received a major award in one position that you've had. We'll work that into there, but awards don't go on your resume, but you'll be able to put those on a job application. Even if you just graduated from college, don't put your high school information on a resume. If you graduated from college, there's an assumption that you have a high school diploma. However, if you do not have a bachelor's degree, you do need to put that, but I'm going to hopefully assume that everybody is at this point in their lives is going to have a college degree. You want to at least have a bachelor's degree. And you, as we said, we don't put the location or the year that you graduated from college. I'm looking at my notes to make sure that I don't miss it. I'm telling you anything. And we don't want to put your higher education GPAs. That's not important. And if you have that on your LinkedIn, I want you to go take it off your LinkedIn too. It doesn't make you look good to brag about your GPA. Okay, now, let me go to these next couple of pages here, because what I did was I took, this is a job summary on this slide. This is the job summary before and after of working with somebody on their resume. And so I asked their permission to use a couple of things from the resume and not the whole thing. So you can see what's on the left side. It's not a very strong paragraph. Leader with a diverse background, 10 plus years of experience and outstanding results in the security, aviation, civilian engineering, and medical sectors. I have led teams at home and abroad from small team environments, yada, yada, yada. Okay, now what that tells me is this person doesn't know what they want to do when they grow up, because they've talked about the security arena, they've talked about the aviation arena, they've talked about the civil engineering arena, and they've talked about the medical arena. And so that is not a good, strong way to start out your resume. And it ends with, I am looking forward to being a valuable member of your organization. Yeah, you are, because you applied to the job, or you sent your resume to be looked at. And so on those 2 pages, that is not good use of the real estate. And this person knows how I felt about what they wrote. And what we went on to write is on the right side, where it comes and explains what they have done, what they bring to the table in very strong words, although we're not finished with it yet. And so how I would, this is the next step. What you see here in the after section is a phase in getting to the final individual summary, executive summary. What I would simply write is experienced project manager and security operations manager, period. Proven track record of success, leading teams and implementing physical security systems. Adept at organizing and coordinating personnel, training and compliance activities to ensure the protection of personnel and assets. I would flip the next sentence. It starts out skilled in risk management, and goes on in resulting in successful completion of multi-million security projects, I would flip that and reword that sentence so that the completion of the projects comes from the at the beginning of the sentence. The same thing in the sentence about leadership abilities in geographically separated locations. I would reword that sentence. The last sentence is a great way to end a summary. Exceptional problem solving skills with a keen eye for identifying gaps and implementing cost effective solutions. And what that tells me is that this is the kind of person who has experience that could move into lots of different arenas. They don't have to specify the arenas, the sectors, but they have skills that could be used in lots of different sectors. So that's a good, strong way to end your summary. Now, here's a couple samples of bullets. Again, the before on the left, the after on the right. And so the first one actually is a job description, not a bullet, I'm sorry. And so it's important to word things in a way that the person who's going to read it can understand it best. That's what we do in communication. We don't communicate best with people when we communicate in a way that we understand. We communicate best when we communicate in a way that they understand. And so when you tell somebody in your job description, in your job description, that you lead and supervise 50 U.S. and German personnel, building duty schedules, coordinating leave, that's not something that a civilian might well understand as well, and that might not be so important to the job. And so lead off with a better thing that explains exactly what you did in the job without that. Now, you can see the second one is an actual bullet, and one of the things that we don't usually do in the civilian sector is we don't take care of people in the civilian sector the way we take care of military people. And so we left out the securing 718 personnel. We cut down on the words to make it go to 2 lines. And you can see that there that we talked about an austere location. We don't talk about going to deployments. We don't talk about, we try not to talk about countries that where the U.S. has participated in conflicts, because that can sometimes get people in the civilian sector thinking things that we don't want them to be thinking about us. Because even though many companies are saying that they are very veteran friendly, they are still a little bit nervous sometimes about having us on their teams. So I'm going to pull the slides down, and we just want to talk for a few minutes more about some specific things about resumes. I talked about that when numbers are 10 or less, we want to write them out. In the military, we have a tendency to write the capital letter K after a number to signify the number 1,000, but the ATS systems, the applicant tracking systems, the scanners, they don't recognize that. So put those zeros on. The same things for the M's and the B's for millions and billions, and T's for trillions. Put all those zeros in. Make sure you do that. If you're used to writing a plus sign after a number for saying more than that number, then what you want to do is to write out more than 10, not 10 plus, okay? So in excess of, use the words because the applicant tracking system doesn't understand what 10 plus means. And so if they are looking for numbers in a resume, it might not pick that up. So that's really key. Now let's talk about how to take what you've done in one industry sector and frame it for another. It's very easy to find, to do that, much more easier than you think. And many people in the military have no interest in doing in the civilian sector what they did in the military, but they have skills that can be used in all kinds of sectors. So it's very important, and I think Kim had put it earlier in the comments. I had seen it fly by. Let me I put here. She said it's important to know the new words in your specific field, and that's exactly right. So what you want to do is to get to know something about the new field that you want to go into in the civilian sector. Find out what the appropriate words are. Find out what the skills are. And then we go look at what you have done and we write about what you have done in terms that they will recognize in the civilian sector to show that you have the skills that you gained in one sector, but you can translate those into another sector. It's very easy to do. Because, in the military, you kept track of stuff, you managed projects, and you took care of people. And that's what they that's what they want you to hire you for in the civilian sector. They want to hire you because you know how to save them money, you know how to save them time, you can take care of their people, and you can manage processes, do projects and programs. And so you've done all of that in the military, and maybe in another sector, in the civilian. If you've been in the civilian world and you want to move into a different sector, you've done all that. And so that's very easy to just look at how things are framed in the new sector that you want to move into, the new industry sector, and then take what you've done and rewrite it in terms that they will recognize for that new field that you want to go into. So that is, I don't see any questions in the chat. I really appreciate everybody being here. I have a specific ask for you. If you've been on with me this long, and so I'm going to put a couple of links into the chat, and we'll go back to this. Won't post to every place, but I'm going to put that there. I would like you to go to LTI on LinkedIn and follow LTI. There's the link. And I put it in the chat, so do that. And then I want you to, if we're not already connected on LinkedIn, I want you to follow me on LinkedIn here. There's that, and I'm going to put it in the chat. And if we already are connected on LinkedIn, what I want you to do is to use that link and go to my profile and do what's called ringing my bell. And that means when you ring my bell, that means that when I post something, you'll get notified of it so that you won't have to you won't miss any important posts that I do. And last but not least, I want to invite you to participate in our upcoming LTI birthday party. I'm going to put the link in the chat on where you can go to register for it. And I'll put it on the screen too. We have a great guest speaker, Spencer Tillman. He's a former professional football player. He's a Fox newscaster for the college games, and we're really excited to hear he talks about the challenges of transitioning and persisting. I think you'll really enjoy hearing him. We're going to have some games. We're going to have a special LTI cookie. I'm really excited. And if you register by July 7th, we ask you to give us your mailing address. If you register by July 7th, we'll send you a cookie so that you can celebrate with us and eat an LTI cookie during the event. So thank you so much for being on with me today. If you have, whoops, I didn't click post for that. There we go. There's the link to the birthday celebration registration. If you have any questions, please put them into the comments below wherever you find this video, and we will get with you to answer them, or send them to admin@leadertransitioninstitute.org. And particularly if you don't have a copy of our LTI resume format, please send me an email, message me on LinkedIn, and ask for the format. We're happy to send it to you. So thank you for your time today, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.